Hi, welcome back to Meet Your Instructor. I have with me professionally certified coach Rebecca Smith. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Rebecca's our instructor for referring out. So she's teaching our coaches what to do when a client may need therapy above coaching.
Right, right.
And she has a background in therapy and coaching. So she's the perfect one to teach this class. Rebecca, could you share with us a little bit about what brought you into coaching and just your background in general?
Sure. Be happy to, Laurel. I had an opportunity many years ago when I was executive in the addiction field in a nonprofit to work as an internal coach. I was asked to coach two other directors and all the mid-level supervisors. And so I was sent to a very, very short coaching program, brought back in, and then sort of developed an internal coaching system. And I loved it. I loved being involved in that approach as opposed to counseling or therapy. And it helped us a lot internally because it was self-directed and yet there was a structure and a framework to it, much like when we work individually with clients.
Can you just share a little bit about your unique coaching style?
Okay, so my background is that I am still a licensed addiction counselor in the state of Washington. I came out of having been in my own personal recovery since my early 20s, having grown up in a family with mental health and addiction issues, and really being sensitive to it as something that I wanted to go into as a field. And I worked right up to the top. I became an executive director of a treatment center and then decided I really didn't want to do that level of work anymore. And it's a funny story, but I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I literally had one of those moments between sleep and wake where things kind of bubble up. And I've been asking the universe for about a month. And I got this sort of thing in my head about coaching. And the term that actually showed up for me was recovery coaching. And I had never really heard much about it, but I knew it existed. And so I got fully awake, went on the internet, and found a program that taught life coaching with a focus on working with people in recovery and addiction. And I signed up for it. I was in a master's program finishing up a master's in education. And I signed up for that, left the job I was in, made a complete career switch, basically retired from working in the addiction recovery field, and worked in or went to school for this for about a year and then launched my own coaching private practice. So that's kind of where it came from. But as far as my background, when I work with clients, I work very holistically. I'm a certified yoga instructor. I'm still a licensed addiction counselor. I'm certified as a coach through three different mechanisms, two coaching programs I've also done at a graduate level. And my style is that I work holistically. So when I work with somebody who has an addiction background or has an issue with what they call addiction or abuse, I take that into account. But only about 40% of my clients really have that. So
Mhm.
I do executive coaching. I have several students right now at the University of Arizona whose parents have asked me to help them, work through the first couple years of university. It varies each year. And so when I look at people, I talk to them about their lifestyle. I look at what are they eating? How are they exercising? What's their mental talk about, their self talk? Because it's a big part of how we feel every day. I might talk to them about their spiritual life, not religious, but spiritual, because I think it's an underpinning for all of us that we have to move through the world with a recognition that we have more going on than just our families, our work, and our diet kind of a
Mhm.
thing. So I even use essential oils sometimes with clients because some of them help change moods immediately. And it's a good kind of adjunct to what I do. So that gives you a
Yeah,
little sense of it.
love that. I even have Citrus Bliss on my desk.
Yes.
Just like wakes you up in the middle
Right,
of
right.
the
Yep.
afternoon. That's wonderful. Thank you. And how about, do you have any advice for somebody that, let's say, is in the therapy world and looking to either transition to coaching
Yeah.
or adding coaching to their
I do because I get a lot of inquiries about that. I've actually sent some people to your program, to this program, and just people who've asked me, "Gee, how do I get out of this therapy mode in my head, and what do I need to do?" And one of the biggest things I look at when I think about it is that there's a lot more freedom in coaching. It's a much more eclectic way of working with clients.
Mhm.
It's freeing. I think you'll find as a therapist or a counselor that you're able to move through your background and pick up things that work much easier than if you're just thinking about I'm a CBD or whatever, CPT therapist, or I've been trained in a particular modality and I have to stay with that. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the difference between coaching and therapy?
Sure. So when I talk about that with new clients, because I always get that question, and if I don't, I talk to them about it. I said, "Let me tell you about it." The biggest thing I tell people is I'm not interested so much in the pathology of where you came from. I don't look at you as a client and say, "You're broken. You need healing. I have the answers for you in your life," like I might do if I was strictly looking at you from a therapeutic point of view, if with that filter or lens on. When I work with addiction clients in the old days, you have sort of a formula, and you do come in with a mindset about what does recovery look like. And as a coach, you don't do that. It's really driven by the client. And a lot of what I do now is I look at people and I say, "Tell me your story. What's going on?" And I start with that from not just their childhood, because if they bring it up, it's there. But I don't look at it as um, neurosis, or I don't like to put labels on people anymore. I don't feel good about any of that. And in therapy, uh, often the therapist is the expert and has, like I said, sort of a prescription for how you're going to get from A to Z. In coaching, good coaches really partner with their clients. They walk alongside their clients.
Mm.
They allow for things to bubble up, for things to happen, rather than, we've got to get from here to there, and it's got to look just like this because that's the way I was trained. That's a big part of it. Um,
Yeah.
there is some healing that takes place in the coaching relationship, but it's not, in my mind, it's not focused on like I would if I had my counselor or therapist hat on.
Yeah, that's a great observation. I've noticed it can be therapeutic, but it's
Hmm.
not therapy. But
Right.
sometimes the client does their own work and something gets
Boom.
healed,
Right.
right? Because of the work
Right.
they're doing. Yeah,
The
it's really
shift,
fascinating.
the
Yeah.
shift that needs to take place.
Do you have a message for a potential student?
Well, I would say go get coaching. And I think paying attention to your own intuition about it is big, because I use intuition a lot in my coaching. And I think that's one of the things that we develop as coaches and we learn to trust. So go get some coaching, read about it, talk to some coaches. I'm available. I get people that call me all the time and say, "Talk to me about coaching." I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Um, just that I think there's a huge need right now for coaches. And I would say if you're interested in coaching, please go into an accredited ICF school, because otherwise you won't learn the basics of coaching. And if you're a therapist, don't just hang out a shingle saying you're a coach, as a lot of people do, because there is a difference. And it's important to learn the difference. Sometimes it's subtle, but knowing how to pivot as a coach is much different than knowing how to work therapeutically with a client. Um, so look at your background, feel out what you are doing at your in your life in terms of the next step, um, and don't be afraid to trust your own wisdom. We all have our own inner guidance, and it's there for a reason.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
You're welcome. Good to be here. See you later. Bye.